My name is Vanessa Cole. I'm 29 years old, and I'm writing this at 3 a.m. because sleep does not come easily to people who know exactly when they ruined their own lives. There are mistakes you make because you are confused. There are mistakes you make because you are hurt. And then there are mistakes you make because some ugly, frightened part of you would rather destroy something first than risk being destroyed by it. That was me. 6 months ago, I had Ethan Ward. Not just a boyfriend. Not just a man I loved. I had the kind of man women spend years praying exists and then convince themselves they do not deserve once he is standing right in front of them. Ethan was steady, gentle, almost annoyingly thoughtful. He remembered the names of my coworkers, the way I liked my coffee, the exact brand of crackers I wanted when I was sick. He called my mother on her birthday without me reminding him. He once drove 40 minutes in the rain because I casually mentioned craving soup from a tiny restaurant across town. And I betrayed him. The worst part is not that I did it. The worst part is why. Because I thought he was betraying me first. It started on a Thursday evening while I was folding laundry in our apartment. Ethan stood near the kitchen counter with his phone in his hand, looking at me like he had rehearsed something and still did not know how to say it. "I need to go see my parents on Sunday," he said. I tossed one of his t-shirts onto the pile. "Okay, what time are we leaving?" His face shifted. Just a little. But I saw it. "Actually," he said, "I need to go alone." The shirt in my hands went still. Alone made no sense. His parents lived 2 hours away, and I had been to that house more times than I could count. His mom, Patricia, sent me recipes and holiday decorations she thought I would like. His dad, Robert, once spent an entire Saturday teaching me how to change a tire because he said, "Every future ward woman should know." So when Ethan said alone, something inside me tightened. "Why can't I come?" I asked. "It's just family financial stuff," he said quickly. "Paperwork about my grandfather's estate. You'd be bored." He did not look at me when he said it. That was the first warning sign. The second was his phone. For weeks it had been face down on tables. He took calls in the hallway. Once, when I reached for it to check the time, he moved it so fast you would have thought it was burning. The third warning sign had a name. Lauren Blake. Ethan's ex-girlfriend. She had moved back to town 2 months earlier, and I only knew because she liked one of his Instagram posts. 1 heart on 1 photo, and suddenly I was 3 years deep into her profile at midnight, zooming in on old pictures like they were crime scene evidence. I told myself I was being careful. I told myself women get blindsided because they ignore signs. But the truth? I was not looking for answers. I was feeding a fear until it became bigger than my love. That Saturday night, Ethan fell asleep beside me with one arm across my waist. He looked peaceful, trusting. And I lay there, staring at the ceiling, furious at a crime I had not proven. At 11:42 p.m., I texted Caleb. Caleb went to my gym. He had been flirting with me for months. Small comments, 2 long smiles, messages pretending to be about workouts. I always kept distance between us. That night, I erased the distance. "Having a rough night," I typed. "Could use company." He replied almost instantly. "Be there in 20. I remember looking at Ethan then. He was asleep, breathing softly, completely unaware that the woman he loved was about to punish him for something he had not done. I told myself I was only going downstairs to talk. Just talk. Just feel wanted. Just remind myself I still had options if Ethan had already chosen someone else. Caleb was waiting in the parking lot, engine running, cologne heavy in the cold air. I got into his car. He looked at me like I was fragile and beautiful and wronged. Exactly how I wanted to be seen.
He's an idiot if he's taking you for granted, Caleb said.
I should have left. Instead, I stayed. One hand touched mine. Then a kiss happened. Then another. And somewhere between my anger and my shame, I crossed a line I could never uncross. I will not dress it up. I cheated. Not because Ethan failed me. Because I failed him. When I crawled back into bed around 2 in the morning, Ethan rolled toward me in his sleep and pulled me close. "Love you," he mumbled. I stared into the dark and felt something inside me crack. The next morning, Ethan kissed my forehead before leaving. "I'll be back by dinner," he said. "Want me to pick up Thai food?" I smiled like I had not shattered our life hours earlier. "Sure." 15 minutes after he drove away, I put on my baggiest hoodie, tucked my hair under a baseball cap, and followed him. I knew where his parents lived. I knew the neighborhood. I knew the big oak tree in their front yard because Ethan and I had climbed it once like children, laughing so hard Patricia came outside and threatened to take pictures. That day, I hid behind it like a thief. Through the living room window, I saw Ethan. His parents were there. And so was Lauren. My heart went cold. For one terrible second, I felt relieved. Relieved because if he was guilty, then maybe I was not a monster. Then Ethan spoke. "Mom, Dad," he said, voice trembling. "I know this is unusual, but I needed Lauren's help with this." Lauren stepped forward, holding a small velvet box. Ethan opened it. Inside was a ring. "I've been saving for 2 years," he said. "I wanted it to be perfect for Vanessa." The world seemed to tilt under my feet. Ethan kept talking, smiling nervously. "Lauren knew her style from college. She's been helping me plan the proposal. I changed my password because I was terrified Vanessa would see the ring photos or the emails." Patricia covered her mouth. "Oh, Ethan," she whispered. "When are you asking her?" "Tonight," he said. "Tonight. The restaurant is booked. Her family is coming. Everyone will be waiting after. I just wanted your blessing first. And Grandma's pearl necklace. I want to give it to her after she says yes." After she says yes. Not if. After. I backed away from the window with my hand over my mouth. I had followed my faithful boyfriend to catch him betraying me. And instead, I found him planning forever. I ran to my car. I drove home with tears blurring the road, Caleb's name flashing again and again on my phone. I had 2 hours before Ethan came back. 2 hours to shower. 2 hours to change clothes. 2 hours to pretend I had not destroyed the man who was about to ask me to marry him. Ethan came home that evening with a soft knock of the door and the smell of lemongrass and chili drifting in ahead of him. "Hey, baby," he said, kicking off his shoes like it was any other night, like nothing in the world had changed. I was sitting on the couch, hands clasped so tightly in my lap they had gone numb. I forced myself to look up, to smile, to be the woman he thought he was coming home to. "Hey." He paused. It was small, almost nothing. But Ethan had always been the kind of man who noticed the things other people missed. "You okay?" he asked, setting the takeout bags down slowly. "You look pale." My heart slammed against my ribs. Just say it. Just tell him. I opened my mouth and lied. "Just feeling a little off," I said, pressing a hand to my stomach. "Probably something I ate." Concern immediately softened his face. "Oh no, do you want to stay in? We can skip dinner, watch something. I'll make you tea." Every word was a knife. Because even now, even here, he was choosing me. "No," I said too quickly. then softer. No. Let's go out. I don't want to ruin your plans. His brow furrowed slightly. What plans? I swallowed. Right. The performance had already started. Just whatever you had in mind tonight. For a moment, he studied me, like he was trying to solve something that didn't quite add up. Then, slowly, he smiled. Okay, he said. Yeah, let's go out. An hour later, I was sitting across from him at the restaurant where we had our first date. The same corner table. The same soft lighting. The same song playing faintly in the background that I used to joke was our song before we even had one. Only now, everything felt staged. Because I knew. I knew what was coming. And I knew I didn't deserve it. I could see them. In the back. My parents, pretending to look at menus they weren't reading. His parents, sitting too straight, too still. A man at the bar who had been checking his phone for 10 straight minutes, definitely the photographer. Everyone was waiting. Everyone believed in us. Everyone except the person who had already broken us. Vanessa? I blinked. Ethan was watching me, concern creeping back into his eyes. Where'd you go? Nowhere, I said quickly. Just tired. He reached across the table and took my hand. Warm. Familiar. Safe. I know wedding stuff can get overwhelming, he said gently. We don't have to rush anything. We can slow down. Or not even do a big thing. We could just go somewhere. You and me. My throat tightened. He was offering to change his dream. For me. And I had already destroyed it. Ethan. He stood up. And then he was walking around the table. And then he was kneeling. No. No, no, no. My heart started pounding so loudly I could barely hear him. But I saw his face.
Open. Nervous. Hopeful.
Vanessa, he said, voice shaking just slightly. These last 3 years with you have been the best of my life. Every word hit like a blow. I've never met anyone who makes me feel the way you do. You're my home. You're my future. You're the person I want every ordinary day with. And every extraordinary one, too. People were starting to notice. Turning. Watching. Smiling. I don't just love you, he continued. I choose you. Every day. And I want to keep choosing you. For the rest of my life. He reached into his jacket. Pulled out the velvet box. Opened it. The ring caught the light like it was alive. I've been planning this for months, he said, a small, nervous laugh escaping him. And somehow, it still doesn't feel like enough. Tears blurred my vision. Not from happiness. From the unbearable weight of what I had done. Vanessa Cole, will you marry me? The room held its breath. I could feel it. The expectation. The joy. The certainty. Say no. Tell him. Right now. Before it goes any further. Before this becomes something you can never fix. Yes. The word came out before I could stop it. Soft. Broken. But loud enough. The room erupted. Applause. Cheers. Movement from every direction as our families rushed forward. My mother crying. His mother hugging me like I was already hers forever. His father clapping Ethan on the back. The photographer snapping picture after picture. And Ethan looking at me like he had just been handed the entire world. He slipped the ring onto my finger. It fit perfectly. Of course it did. He had planned everything. Except this. Except me.
The engagement party blurred into something surreal.
Laughter. Toasts. Hugs. Finally, my mom kept saying. I knew it was coming, Patricia whispered, squeezing my hands. He's been so nervous. Lauren was there too. Smiling. Kind. Completely unaware that I had spent the entire day hating her for something she never did. You're going to be so happy, she told me. I almost laughed, because I already knew I wouldn't be. Not like this. Not with the truth sitting inside me like poison. My phone buzzed in my purse. Once. Twice. 3 times. I didn't need to look to know who it was. But I did anyway. Caleb. 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 The name felt like a stain I couldn't scrub out. I silenced it, shoved the phone deeper into my bag, and smiled for another photo. 3 weeks. That's how long I lasted. 3 weeks of pretending. 3 weeks of planning a wedding with a man who looked at me like I was the best thing that had ever happened to him. 3 weeks of waking up with the ring on my finger and feeling like it was burning through my skin. 3 weeks of Caleb refusing to disappear. It started with texts. You okay? Miss you. We should talk. Then calls. Then showing up at the gym again like nothing had happened. You can't just pretend that night didn't mean something, he said one afternoon, stepping into my path as I tried to leave. It didn't, I snapped, heart racing. It was a mistake. He smiled, like I had just told him a joke. You don't believe that. I do. You came to me, he said softly. You chose me. I flinched. Because that part was true. I was upset, I said. I thought Ethan was cheating. I was wrong. But you weren't wrong about how you felt with me. There is no with you, Caleb. His expression shifted. Not anger. Something worse.
Obsession.
You're engaged to the wrong guy, he said. You know that. I'm engaged to the man I love. The man you cheated on. The words hung between us.
Sharp. Unavoidable.
I swallowed hard. Please, I said quietly. Just leave me alone. For a second, I thought he might. Then his face hardened. If you don't meet me, he said, voice low, controlled. I'm telling him everything. My blood ran cold. What? I have screenshots, he continued, messages, and more. More. The word echoed in my head. What do you mean, more? I whispered. He smiled, and this time, it wasn't kind. Things that would make a pretty convincing attachment. My stomach dropped. Caleb. Tomorrow, he said. 8 o'clock. Coffee shop on 5th. I'm not. Or I send it to Ethan, he cut in. Your choice. He stepped back. Just like that. Like he hadn't just detonated a bomb in the middle of my life. I stood there, frozen as he walked away. The world around me felt distant. Muted. Because suddenly, it wasn't just about what I had done. It was about what he could prove, and what that proof could destroy. That night, Ethan noticed. Of course he did. He always did. You've been off, he said softly as we lay in bed. His hand moved gently over my back, the same way it always had when he was trying to comfort me. Just tired, I murmured into the pillow. Is it the wedding?
he asked. We can slow down. There's no rush. I mean it.
I squeezed my eyes shut. He was giving me an out, a way to breathe, and I was suffocating anyway. I'm okay, I whispered. He pulled me closer. I hate seeing you like this, he said. Whatever it is, we'll figure it out. Together. Together. The word nearly broke me. Because this was the one thing we couldn't survive together. The next morning, I woke up before Ethan. Not because I wanted to, because I couldn't breathe. The sunlight coming through the curtains felt too bright, too real, like it was exposing everything I had tried to bury. Ethan was still asleep beside me, one arm draped over my waist, his face relaxed in a way that made my chest ache. This man trusted me, loved me, was building a future with me. And somewhere in that same future, a countdown had already started. 8 o'clock. Coffee shop on 5th. Or everything would explode. I slipped out of bed quietly, careful not to wake him. In the bathroom, I stared at my reflection for a long time. I didn't recognize the woman looking back. Not because she looked different. Because I knew what she had done. Because I knew what she was about to do next. I didn't make it to the coffee shop that night. I told myself I wouldn't. All day I rehearsed a different ending. I would tell Ethan. I would sit him down, take his hands, and confess everything before Caleb had the chance to twist it into something worse. I would give him the truth, unfiltered, ugly, real. Because he deserved that, even if it cost me him. But when the moment came, I hesitated. Because truth is one thing. Proof is another. And whatever Caleb had, photos, videos, something I couldn't even remember him taking, that was something Ethan could never unsee. I couldn't let the last image he had of me be that. So instead of going to Caleb, I drove to my parents' house. I told them I had the flu, that I didn't want to risk getting Ethan sick before the wedding. My mom fussed over me immediately, bringing soup, checking my temperature, smoothing my hair back like I was a child again. My dad stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching me with quiet concern. Ethan called, he said. 4 times. Guilt twisted in my stomach. I told him you were resting. I nodded, unable to meet his eyes. That boy loves you more than life itself, my dad added, softer now. Whatever's got you spooked, don't let it ruin something good. Something good. I almost laughed. Because it already had. I stayed there for 3 days. 3 days of ignoring calls. From Ethan. From Caleb. From everyone. My phone buzzed constantly, but I kept it on silent, face down, like that could somehow stop reality from catching up to me. On the 4th day, Ethan showed up. Of course he did. He had always been the kind of man who didn't give up easily. I heard his voice downstairs before I saw him. Low. Worried. Urgent. Is she okay? She won't answer my calls. My mother tried to calm him, but he was already moving. Already coming up the stairs. I barely had time to sit up on the bed before he was in the doorway. He looked wrecked. Like he hadn't slept. Like the last few days had carved something out of him. Vanessa, he breathed, crossing the room in 2 steps. What's going on? He sat beside me, searching my face like he could piece together the truth just by looking hard enough. Did I do something? He asked. Are you having doubts about us? The question hit harder than anything Caleb had said. Because the answer wasn't simple. No, I whispered. Then, after a beat, yes. His face tightened. Talk to me, he said gently. Please, you're scaring me. I looked at him, really looked, at the man who had chosen me, over and over, without hesitation. And I knew I couldn't let anyone else be the one to destroy him. It had to be me. I need to tell you something, I said, my voice barely steady. My phone buzzed in my hand. I didn't even need to check. I knew. Time's running out. 4 more days. Ethan saw the change in my expression immediately. Who is that? He asked. You look terrified. It's nothing. Vanessa! His voice was firmer now. Is someone threatening you? The word hung in the air.
Threatening.
I opened my mouth and broke. The sob came out of nowhere, violent and uncontrollable. My whole body shook as everything I had been holding in for weeks came crashing to the surface. Ethan pulled me into his arms instantly. Hey, it's okay, he murmured, rocking me gently. Whatever it is, we'll figure it out. I'm right here. Right here. God, he was right here. And I had already lost him. I choked, pulling back slightly. I need a second. He nodded immediately. Of course, take your time. I stumbled into the bathroom and locked the door behind me. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped my phone. I called Caleb. He answered on the first ring. Well, he said lightly, I was starting to think you weren't coming. I need more time, I whispered. A pause. Then a soft chuckle. 4 days, Vanessa. That's generous. Please, I begged. I'll do anything. The silence on the other end stretched just long enough to make my skin crawl. Anything? He repeated. I closed my eyes. What do you want? 1 more night, he said. The words hit like ice water. What? 1 more night with you, he clarified. You give me that, I delete everything. Photos, videos, messages, gone. My stomach turned. You're insane. Or, he continued smoothly, I send it all to Ethan. Your call. The trap was obvious. 1 more night wouldn't be the end. It would be the beginning of more demands, more threats, more control. But fear doesn't think logically. Fear thinks about the immediate explosion, the damage you can see, not the slow destruction that follows. Tomorrow, he added, same place as before. I pressed my forehead against the cool tile. I could see the future splitting in 2. Tell Ethan and lose him. Or do this and maybe keep him a little longer. Maybe. My voice cracked. What was I doing? What had I become? Okay, I whispered. Good choice, Caleb said. The line went dead. I stood there for a long time, staring at nothing. Then I wiped my face, unlocked the door, and stepped back into the room. Ethan was exactly where I had left him. Waiting. Patient. Still believing in me. I'm okay, I said, forcing a small smile. Just wedding stress. Relief flooded his face instantly. Yeah, he said softly. I figured. It's a lot. I nodded. Maybe you're right, I added. Maybe we should just keep it simple. You and me. His smile grew. Whatever you want, he said. I just want you happy. Happy. The word felt like something from another life. Because the next night, I didn't go to Caleb. I couldn't. I couldn't become that person again. Instead, I went home. sat Ethan down in our living room, turned off both our phones, and told him everything. Every lie, every suspicion, every choice. I watched his face as the truth unfolded. Watched the confusion give way to realization. Watched the realization turn into something hollow. Something empty. Something broken. By the time I finished, he was sitting on the far edge of the couch, as far away from me as he could get without leaving the room. "Say something," I whispered. He didn't. Not right away. When he finally did, his voice was flat. "The night before I proposed," he said slowly, "while I was asleep next to you, you were with another man. I thought you were cheating, so you decided to cheat first. I was wrong. I know that. It makes perfect sense." The words were calm. Too calm. "You showed me exactly who you are." They hurt more than if he had yelled, because they were true. He stood up, walked to the bedroom, pulled a suitcase from the closet. "Ethan, please." "Stop," he said without turning around. "Every explanation makes it worse." "I'll do anything," I said, tears spilling over again. "Therapy, counseling, whatever you need." He laughed. A short, empty sound. "You were being blackmailed by the guy you cheated with," he said. "And your solution was to meet him again?" "I didn't go," I said quickly. "I was going to, but I didn't." "Stop," he repeated, sharper now. I fell silent. He packed methodically,
Quietly.
like he was removing himself from a place that no longer belonged to him. "What about the wedding?" I asked, desperation clawing at my chest. "What do I tell everyone?" He paused at the doorway. Didn't look back. "Tell them the truth," he said. "Or don't. I don't care anymore." And then he left. No slammed door. No shouting. Just a soft click. And the sound of everything ending. For a while, I just stood there. In the silence. In the space where Ethan had been. The apartment felt different without him. Bigger. Colder. Like something essential had been pulled out of it, leaving behind only echoes. I don't remember how long I stayed like that. Minutes. Hours. Maybe both. What I do remember is the knock. Not the doorbell. A knock. Soft. Measured. Like the person on the other side knew exactly what they were doing. I didn't have to look through the peephole. I knew. I opened the door anyway. Caleb stood there, like he belonged. Like he had been invited. "I heard," he said, eyes scanning my face. He left. My stomach twisted. "How do you—" "You'd be surprised what people talk about," he said lightly. "Especially when something this dramatic happens." Of course. Word traveled fast, especially when it involved something messy, something shameful. "Go away," I said, my voice hollow. Instead, he stepped closer. "I'm here for you," he said softly. The audacity of it almost made me laugh. "You're the reason this happened." "No," he corrected calmly. "You are." That hit. Because it was true. And he knew it. "I gave you a way out," he continued. "You chose him, and look where that got you." Something inside me snapped. "Get out," I said, louder now. "Right now, or I'm calling the police." For a second, something dark flickered across his face. Then he smiled. "Already tried that, didn't you?" he said. "What did they tell you? That I didn't technically do anything wrong?" My blood ran cold. He leaned in slightly, voice dropping. I still have everything, Vanessa. My hands curled into fists. Post it, I said. The words surprised even me. His smile faltered. Go ahead, I continued, my voice shaking but louder now. Post it. Send it. Do whatever you want. You don't mean that. I do. Because at that moment, I had nothing left to protect. You already took everything from me, I said, or helped me take it from myself. So go ahead. Finish it. For a long moment, we just stood there. Then he laughed. But it wasn't amused. It was sharp. Cold. Careful what you wish for, he said. And then he turned and walked away. He posted it that night. Of course he did. Not just to Ethan. Not just to me. To everyone. It was blurry. Dark.
Grainy.
But it was unmistakably me. My face. My voice. My betrayal. The caption was worse. When you know, you know. Hashtag true love. Hashtag worth it. Hashtag no regrets. By morning, it had spread. Twitter. Instagram. Places I didn't even use. Millions of views. Thousands of comments. Most of them cruel. Some of them worse than cruel.
Creative.
Personal.
Accurate.
I turned my phone off after the first hour. It didn't help. My boss called. Vanessa, he said carefully, we're restructuring your department. I almost admired the way he said it. Clean.
Professional.
Cowardly.
I understand, I replied. Because I did. No company wants a scandal attached to their name. Not like this. Not when it's trending. My friends, or the people I thought were my friends, started choosing sides. Most of them chose Ethan. And they were right to. He was the one who had been wronged. A few stayed. They told me things like, maybe he was cheating too. Men always do. You dodged a bullet. I didn't argue. But I didn't believe them either. Because I knew the truth. Ethan hadn't betrayed me. I had betrayed him. I packed up my apartment a week later. Or what was left of it. Ethan had already taken most of his things. The empty spaces were louder than anything he could have said. I moved back in with my parents. At 29.
Unemployed.
Single. And now, infamous. My mom cried the first night.
Quietly.
Like she didn't want me to hear.
My dad didn't cry.
He just looked at me. Long.
Disappointed.
We raised you better than this, he said once. He didn't say it again. He didn't need to. The worst part wasn't the internet, or the job, or even the silence from Ethan. The worst part was watching him move on. I told myself I wouldn't look. I did anyway. Through mutual friends. Tagged photos. Little glimpses of a life that no longer included me. He looked lighter. Like something heavy had been taken off his shoulders. He got promoted. Started running marathons. Went on that trip to Iceland he had always talked about. The one I had always made excuses to avoid. There were pictures of him smiling,
Laughing.
living. And every single one of them felt like proof that he was better without me. 6 months later, I saw him in person. At a grocery store. The same one we used to go to every Sunday morning. I was in the produce section, staring at avocados I had no intention of buying. And then, there he was. For a second, everything stopped. His eyes met mine, and something flickered. Something soft.
Familiar.
Then it was gone, replaced with distance, with caution, with a wall I had built with my own hands. He looked away first, and that's when I saw her, standing beside him, laughing at something on her phone, her hand resting lightly on his arm.
Comfortable.
Easy. Like she belonged there. He smiled at her, the same way he used to smile at me. I didn't stay. I left the cart right there and walked out. Because some things you don't get to witness after you lose them. Lauren reached out to me a couple of months later. I almost didn't respond. But curiosity, or maybe punishment, won. We met at a small coffee shop. Neutral ground. She didn't waste time. I wanted you to know something, she said. I braced myself. Ethan loved you completely. I nodded. I know. Do you? She asked gently. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you threw away something people spend their entire lives hoping for. I swallowed. I thought he was cheating with you. She blinked. Based on what? He was acting distant, secretive. His phone. He was planning your proposal, she said simply. With me. Because I knew what you liked. The truth sounded different out loud.
Sharper.
Less forgiving. I know that now, I whispered. She studied me for a moment, then shook her head slightly. You didn't really think he was cheating, she said. You were looking for a reason, and when you couldn't find one, you made one. The words landed exactly where they needed to, because they were true. Is he happy? I asked quietly. With her? Lauren nodded. Her name is Claire, she said. And yes, he is. A pause. He's different now, she added. More careful, more guarded. But he's happy. I looked down at my hands, at the absence where a ring used to be. She's good for him, Lauren continued. Patient, honest, everything he needs. Everything I wasn't. Why are you telling me this? I asked. She stood, gathered her bag, then looked at me one last time. Because I was your friend once, she said, and I want you to understand what you lost. Her voice softened. You didn't just lose a relationship, Vanessa. You lost a man who would have chosen you every day, a family that already loved you, a future that was already yours. She hesitated. Then, and for what? 20 minutes with someone who turned into your worst mistake? She left before I could answer. But I didn't need to, because I already knew. It's been a year. Caleb eventually stopped. After enough reports, enough warnings, enough consequences. Not because he changed, because he was forced to. I moved to a new city, got a new job, started therapy. Twice a week. Every week. Trying to understand the person I became. Trying to make sure I never become her again. But late at night, when everything is quiet, I still think about that tree in Ethan's parents' yard. How we climbed it together. How we laughed. How we were whole. And how I stood behind it, watching the man who loved me plan a future with me, while I was already destroying it. The last time I searched his name, I found a wedding announcement. Ethan Ward and Claire Bennett.
A small ceremony.
In Iceland. Of all places. The photo showed them standing in the snow.
Laughing.
Happy. At peace. I printed it. Not because I enjoy the pain. Because I need the reminder of what happens when you confuse fear with instinct. When you choose revenge over trust. When you destroy something beautiful just to avoid the possibility of being hurt. My name is Vanessa Cole, and I learned too late that sometimes the person you're really betraying is yourself.